5 years ago, we renovated our first home, and honestly, it was one of the most painful experiences ever. So naturally, our next idea was to do it again, but even more ambitiously.
Oh my God.
Buy and renovate a derelict house from scratch. And we found it, a typical semi-detached house in southeast London, in very poor condition. What we didn't realize at the time was that its condition would turn the purchase into a nightmare. The buying process alone took more than a year and came with a lot of unexpected costs, which I covered in my last video. In this video, I'll share the hidden problems we discovered when opening up the house and where the money actually went in the end. In my last video, I shared that this house had suffered from subsidence, which caused cracks on the walls and water penetrating inside. The previous owner took the cash settlement from the insurer but left the repair work undone. Therefore, repairing any internal and external damage caused by the subsidence became our first priority before we could even think about moving in. In addition, the building survey and the damp and timber survey we commissioned during the buying process became our checklist for the renovation. Anything marked Category 3 or highlighted in red meant urgent attention. That included fixing defects to windows, gutters, and rainwater drainage that had led to water ingress, addressing health and safety issues throughout the property. But as it turned out, that was only the starting point. To estimate the renovation budget, we first referred to the insurer's schedule of works, which allowed £11,000 for the repairs. This was the amount the previous owner had received as a cash settlement but never spent on the repairs. However, we soon realized that this figure only covered cosmetic repairs, essentially the bare minimum. We then discussed the scope with an experienced builder and received our first quote at around £17,000. At the time, we thought that this would cover everything. This included demolition and rubbish clearance, along with the repair works identified in the surveys. Repairing the external walls with cracks caused by subsidence. Replacing a number of defective gutters and rainwater pipes that had caused blockages and water ingress into the house. Removing the polystyrene ceiling tiles and plastering the exposed ceilings. Polystyrene was a common finish used in houses from the 1930s, but no longer considered acceptable under the current fire safety regulation. Installing a new combi boiler to replace the outdated heating system. Carrying out a full electrical rewire to ensure the property met current safety regulations. At this point, we thought we had a realistic understanding of the renovation cost. But anyone who has renovated an old house probably knows what comes next. Once the strip-out started and the building was opened up, more problems appeared. After the polystyrene ceiling tiles were removed, we were met with this. The ceiling plaster underneath were in much worse condition than expected, meaning large areas of defective plasterboard had to be replaced. The same thing happened with the walls. Once the wallpaper was stripped back, more defects started appearing, which meant local reinforcement works were needed, along with new plasterboard and replastering. We also found old rusty gas pipes needed urgent replacement for safety reasons. The existing radiators were ancient and no longer capable of heating the house properly, so these also needed upgrading. Then came the bathroom. Although this looks acceptable on the surface, it turned out to have serious leaks hidden beneath the floor structure, which required a complete renovation. And of course, all of this meant additional demolition, more waste removal, and more labor costs. That led to a second quote, another £16,000. At this point, we started realizing that renovating an old house is less about fixing the problems you can see, and more about uncovering the ones you can't. And that still wasn't the end of it. This was another headache, the derelict porch. We initially planned to repair it minimally to save money, and had intentionally kept low on our priority list. So of course, it started collapsing during the renovation and needed a proper fix. In fact, it had to be completely rebuilt. Together with other bits and pieces that emerged along the way. We received a third quote from the builder, another £9,000. By this stage, we had gone from a relatively straightforward repair project to what felt more like a full house renovation. There were also a number of other costs that never made it into the original budget. Replacement windows, carpet supply and installation, second fix materials for bathroom, and countless smaller purchases. So in total, the renovation cost ballooned to over £50,000, way more than we first planned. At this point, with the budget spiraling out of control, we had two options: continue paying contractors, or find another way to finish the job. And that's where things took a very different turn. Eventually, we decided to take over the house at this stage. By then, the heavy construction work had been completed. What was left looked relatively straightforward. At least, that's what we thought at the time. In the next video, I'll show you how we ended up taking over the final works ourselves and finishing the house as two architects doing the build. Considering we were both juggling full-time jobs, that decision turned out to be a project of its own.